So this video is all about flex shafts or Dremel tools. I'm going to show you. You will need a flex shaft or Dremel tool setup with a pedal plugged into the wall, a motor like this. There's one on the other side as well. There's two stations in our metals lab. And you are going to want to make sure that it says clean. If it says dirty, you need to come get me so I can sanitize the area for you. So always make sure that it is clean. So yeah, Dremel tools and flex shafts have a lot of different options for you. So we're going to use this piece of metal to kind of show you some examples of what they're doing. For the most part, it's filing and sanding, and it's quicker than using it by hand. So this is the part that you would hold in your hand and has lots of different purposes depending on the bit or the burr that you use. So you're going to see a little tool case in the metals lab that has all these different bits and burrs inside of them. There's one side that has polishing, and a lot more texture tools to them. And then the other side is more for filing and sanding. So we will go over some of these more in class, but I just wanted to show you that you have lots of different options. Some are small, some are big, depending on how much of the metal you need to take off or perfect or even out. So I'm just going to take this one. This is a diamond bit, and it's going to do some grinding and filing the edges of my metal. And the first thing you're going to need is a chuck. So if you watch the drill press video, it's about the same thing. You're going to find the little opening right at the top of that piece, lefty loosey, righty tighty. You're going to take off the bit that was left over. Again, it opens up, the teeth open and close. And then you're going to put the bit back into the container and put all your stuff away because you want to keep it as organized as possible. So just like that. Then I'm going to put the new bit inside of those teeth and grab my chuck key again because it's loose and make sure that it's nice and tight. So some of them are bigger or smaller than each other. Just make sure that it's not going to wiggle out and fly at you because it is pretty powerful. Okay, so you want to make sure that the vents are on. You always want to hear them. And there is a sheet of paper above it that reminds you that you need masks and goggles because this is a dangerous tool that could fly pieces of metal at your face. So you want to make sure that you are well protected. There's a pedal on the ground, and you're going to think about it almost like driving a car. So when you press down on the pedal, the motor works in your hand. So always be aware of where your feet are as you're using the flex shaft, because as I press down, it gets faster. As I let it go, it stops turning. So just be aware of that underneath the table. All right, I'm going to take my metal, and as promised, I have some uneven edges. So I'm right-handed. I'm going to hold it in my right hand. I'm going to hold my metal in my left hand. And I never want to put the flex shaft bit directly next to my skin, but you can hold your piece of metal. If you're afraid to hold it, we have some wooden clamps that I will show you in person in class. For the purposes here, I'm not too worried about grinding those edges, as long as I'm staying away from my fingers. So the edges I've ground down a little bit, but you can also do the surface. So if you have some deeper scratches on the surface of your metal that you need to get rid of, you can lay it flat against a wooden block that I'll show you in a minute, and put the flex shaft to the side. The bit is going to grind down and even out those scratches. So if something won't go away from using the polishing wheels, the flex shaft is the next best thing to get rid of it. It also leaves a little bit of a texture, so kind of is shiny, not perfectly smooth, but I could go back and sand it and polish it later. So that is the grinding effect on how to use the flex shaft. But if you want to change the bit or the burr, they have different purposes, and you'll see as you kind of experiment with more of them what that looks like. Okay, so with that, I'm going to change it. I'm going to open it back up with the chuck key, take out the bit, and if you would like to polish something, I do have small polishing wheel bits that you can put into your flex shaft. So they look just like the polishing wheels but smaller, so they're soft. And you're going to put it right into the opening and tighten it back up, like so, making sure it's nice and even and it's not going to wiggle out. So with this, you will need a chunk of polish. You could borrow it from the polishing wheels, either blue or red, depending on the polish or what stage you are. So for this purposes, I'm going to use just the blue. And very much like the polishing wheels, you are going to spin your Dremel tool and get a little bit of polish on the polishing wheel. This usually works best for pieces that are too small to go to the polishing wheels. and something that you can hold a little bit closer in your hands, or if you just want to polish certain areas of your metal and not the entire piece, this is a nice tool to get that done. So remember that it's going to show up black, and that's just that excess polish, but you're buffing the polish into the metal. So you will need a polishing cloth to wipe off the excess when you are done, but it is a nice, efficient, easy way and a versatile way to get a lot of filing, sanding, and polishing done. So I like to make sure that my station is nice and clean when I'm done, taking off the pieces and putting them back for other students and organizing them. The polish can go back as well, but it should look sort of like this when you're all done. And then I will switch it to dirty. The end.